How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Feeling good? You feeling good, Paul? Man. At all-time lows. It cut out on me, but I said excitement at all-time lows. I'm excited to be here with you guys. Can you see it? Can you feel it? I was thinking about it. I spent a pretty cool time this week, last Monday morning with Dawson and Elias and Paul. They came over to my house, something like 7 a.m. last Monday morning. We spent some time together, and man, it was an incredible time. And I just got to know those guys better and hear their story and why they made a decision to follow Jesus and the things that Jesus specifically was teaching them during this season of their life. And it was so rich. It was so awesome. And, you know, like previous to that, I'd actually never sat down and had an extensive conversation with either of those guys. But it was so natural, right? It just felt like brothers sitting around, drinking coffee, talking about the Lord. And I would just encourage you guys this week to make an intentional effort to spend time with someone within our family that you've never spent time with before. And just share your story. Hey, this is why I made a decision to follow Jesus. Or share what you're learning or what the Lord is teaching you in this moment. Things you're talking about in your D group or with your D group leader. And encourage one another. And I don't want you guys to get all the way through college and think, man, there were like 150 other people that I could have got to know and learn from and grow with. But I stayed in my bubble, and so then I don't know those people. I didn't get to learn the things from them that I could have taken away from them. And so I just challenge you with that this week. Try to find one person, spend an hour, spend 2 hours with them this week that's in our community. Just get to know them, their story, why they made a decision to follow Jesus. And a second random thought I had kind of going in the night was this is, you know, pretty much a generation that likes to hide behind media. And in that, we have found ourselves with a culture full of keyboard warriors, I like to call them. It's like they really have a lot to say when they're behind a text message or behind a tweet or behind a Facebook post or behind a screen, and they're miles and miles away from the person that they're talking to, right? And man, there's so much danger relationally in that. There's so much danger relationally in having all the hard conversations that you have or things that you think are seemingly going to be uncomfortable through technology. You know, hopefully I'll have a lot of influence in your guys' life through the years that you're in college. Hopefully a lot of things from me or from hopefully, dude is doing it like every 6 seconds now. I don't know what's going on with this thing. But hopefully, I'm going to try to scoot up and see if that's maybe why. But hopefully one of those things that you'll take away, it didn't, it got worse, is that, man, the best conversations, the richest conversations happen in person, happen face-to-face with someone. It may be uncomfortable. It may make you feel a little bit weird, and your blood pressure may rise a bit. You may cry, and it may make you a little bit nervous. But men, like, stop asking girls out through a DM on Instagram. Like, you know, like, hey, you want to get coffee? No, I don't want to get coffee. You're not even man enough to talk to me face to face. I don't want to marry you. I don't want to date you. You're weak sauce. You don't even look like your profile picture. I've seen you in Chi Alpha with your mask off. I know that that's not what... Not in Chi Alpha. We wear our masks in Chi Alpha. But seriously, why is it that we have the hardest, but also probably the most important conversations, we try to have them through technology? It really makes no sense. And I don't want that to be my life. You know, when I have questions or concerns or Axton, you know, this microphone's it's in for us tonight. I don't want to have that conversation through text message. You know, so much can be misunderstood through it. We're going to have to fix this or it's going to drive me nuts, I think. Did you change something? Because it got worse. I feel just a big echo now. You guys hear that too? It's weird. Is there reverb on this mic? Man. I was hoping that would fix it. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm going to pray though. And hopefully that'll fix it. Jesus, we love you. Really grateful to be together tonight in your presence. Tonight as family. And God, I just pray that we would be hearing your Spirit and what your Spirit would say to us. God, I pray that anything that I would communicate, it wouldn't be of me. Anything that is of me and not of you, Jesus, I pray that it wouldn't be remembered, that it wouldn't be lived out, that it would just be forgotten, that these guys would leave it behind. But anything communicated tonight that's of you, I pray that it would stick in their minds and hearts for the rest of their lives. And the truth of your word would bring forth fruit in their lives, would bring forth change, transformation, and life. Because that's what your word does when it's planted in our hearts. It grows, it matures, it changes us. God, I pray that we would be a community that doesn't just hear the word, but also walks in obedience to the word, the parts that we like, the parts that we don't like or aren't as easy for us to grab onto. Now, Jesus, speak to us tonight. Thanks for the opportunity to be together. Thanks for the opportunity to be family. In your name, Lord. Amen. What I was saying before I got distracted, I want to at least close my thought, is man up, woman up, and just talk to each other. You guys realize that there was a time in life where there was no technology, no phone calls, no text messages, no Facebook, none of that stuff. And somehow people made it. And they communicated with each other. And I'm sure that their communication was probably even better than what we have as far as interpersonal relationship and dealing with conflict. And so, man, I just believe that for you guys. And I hope that you'll fight the urge to handle conflict and hard conversation and questions that you have, etc., through these easy methods of hiding behind a keyboard on your phone or computer or something, but you'll go. And with that said, we haven't said it in a while, but man, if you guys have questions about something we teach or do or anything, please come talk to us. Sometimes I have enough money that I could buy you lunch, coffee, anything. And I would love to sit with you. Brooke would love to sit with you. Anyone on our staff would love to sit with you and have a real life conversation, man to man, woman to man, man to woman, whatever it is, to just talk through what your questions are, what your concerns are. And man, if I'm ever teaching anything or doing anything that the scriptures aren't teaching, then I want to be corrected. I want you to come to me. I want to know. Like I'm not a person who's sitting like, oh, I'm cool with dishonoring God just so I can have it my way. I think that you guys know me to not be that type of person. So please come, just talk with us. We'd love to talk with you through those things, tell you why we believe what we believe, look scripturally at why we came to the conclusions that we did, and we'll make time for it. So I just wanted to speak to that tonight. Love you guys. I love you. Faith without works is dead. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Last week we talked about 2 weeks ago when I shared, we talked about justification by faith. And I'm kind of in this series, it doesn't really have a name, but it's kind of about the process of salvation. And so last time I shared about justification or right standing before God. Basically talked about justification by faith, and that we have right standing before God, not because of right doing, but because of right believing. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about faith without works is dead. And so basically tonight I'm going to be sort of answering the question of, well, how do we know that our faith is genuine? If it's just through faith that we're saved, how do we know that that faith is for real? And I believe next week I'll talk about sanctification, or maturing, growing in your relationship with God. That you once were dead, but now you're alive, so that you once were living in the ways of this world, and now you're striving toward holiness or living in a relationship with God. And my plan is to talk in a couple weeks or a few weeks from now about glorification, which is these big words are basically just the process to salvation. It's like justification, that first step, sanctification, or of salvation, sanctification, the process of actually becoming more like God, or really following Jesus, and eventual glorification, which is there will actually be a day where we no longer desire sin, where things are restored to the way God created them to be in the beginning. And I'm really excited to talk about that in a few weeks. I'm actually never have before, but for probably even a month or months now, God's been speaking to me a lot about that and the importance of it. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. So tonight, though faith without works is dead, just to kind of catch some of you up from a couple weeks ago so you kind of know where we're at, what we're trying to accomplish. We talked about justification by faith. This word justification can be defined as the act of God declaring men free from guilt and acceptable to Him. That's what justification means. As we were guilty before God, He declares us free from that guilt. So we were guilty, but He declared us free from it anyways. And He makes us righteous in response to our genuine belief. And so that's the big idea from 2 weeks ago when I spoke on justification by faith. And so I can recap it in basically 4 sentences for you guys. The first one is, I have neither the capacity nor the necessity to earn righteousness before God. I have neither the capacity or the necessity to earn righteousness before God. The second one from that week was, as spiritual children of Abraham, God responds to our belief in Him by counting it as righteousness. And so He takes our genuine belief and He counts us as righteous in regard to our genuine belief. Thirdly, as those who believe, our lawless deeds are forgiven. Our sins are covered, and the Lord will not count our sins against us. Everything I've shared so far, really good news, huh? And fourth, kind of to recap that message on justification by faith, is a really beautiful truth that I hope is still sitting on your hearts. It's from Romans 4:16. You can rest because right standing before God rests on grace and not on you. You can rest because right standing before God rests in grace and not on you. And so if you guys weren't here, I think the majority of you were, and so you'll be right in step with me. If you weren't here, all of these gatherings are on YouTube, so you guys can actually go back and watch 2 weeks ago to catch up. If you ever miss, you can always go back and watch it. And also, we have a podcast that you guys can listen back to any of the messages, and actually all the breakouts from Winter Retreat, except for Joe's breakouts, were also recorded. So if you guys missed any of those will be there as well. And if you want to access those, you can ask Kyle, or you can basically ask anyone on staff. They'll be able to tell you. Sound good? So there's 2 questions that I want to answer in response to the message on justification by faith, and I want to address them scripturally over the next 2 weeks that I speak, okay? So the first one is this. I'm going to give you guys some time to even write it down. Since justification is a gift received by grace through faith, then there's going to be 2 questions in response to that. So, since justification is a gift received by grace through faith, question number 1, how do I know that my belief or faith is genuine? So when we're talking about something as important as right standing before God coming through a certain means, which is faith, then it's an important question to ask, how do I know that my faith is real, right? Because if we're talking about how do I know if I'm right before God, but then you don't know how to define that thing, genuine faith, then how do you know that you're right before God? You understand? So that's what we're going to be talking about specifically this week is how do I know that my belief or faith is genuine? How do I know that it's for real? And secondly, since justification is a gift received by grace through faith, the second question we'll address probably next week. Is it possible to believe and receive right standing before God and my life stay the same? Is it possible to believe and receive right standing before God and my life stay the same? So we're going to frame most of the night through this question: how do I know that my belief or my faith is genuine? I have a dog. He's my son. His name's Samson. I think we have a beautiful photo of him. He's an absolute legend. And later we're going to talk about how even the demons believe and shudder. And I would lots of times even define him as a demon. He is a mean dog sometimes, but man, he is so sweet sometimes too. He's like those Sour Patch Kids. He's sour, then he's sweet. That explains him well. But Dawson, my dog, he really believes in me in two ways. He believes, I think he believes a lot in me, but specifically for the illustration, he believes that I both have the heart to provide for him and the ability to provide for him. And how I know that is because when I'm at home, he likes to do this thing. Bowls are empty. He does a few things. He either slaps his bowls until it drives us nuts because they're tin and they make all kinds of noise. Or he'll stand at his bowls and he'll slap the ground and he'll whine, or he'll just come up to me and start barking and running around and going to his bowl like, yo, there's nothing in here. He doesn't speak English, though, so he's never spoken to me. He's never been like, hey, there's nothing in here, but I can tell by his actions what he wants. But I can also tell by his actions that he knows that I'm the one that cares about him enough to put something there, but that also I have I know that he believes that I have the ability to do something about it. So I have both the heart to do something about it and the ability to do something about it. What happened? Oh. Okay. I don't know what to say. My dog believes that I have both the heart and the ability to do something about his hunger. That's what I was saying. Maybe I said it in like 12 sentences, but now I've said it in one. So, the way that I know that is because when I'm at home, he always eats all of his food, and he always drinks all of his water. That's why he's slapping at it, because they're empty. Like if he had no faith that I could provide more food and that I could provide more water, what would he do? He would hoard it. He would let some stay in the bowl so he knew, hey, later on, this guy's not going to give me any more food, and if I eat all of that, I'm going to die. Like, not because I'm not going to have anything else to eat anymore. And so, like, when I let my dog outside to use the bathroom, he has never once gone hunting. Like, hey, I think I need to find a mouse. I'm going to pounce on it. I'm going to eat it, bring it back in the house so I can survive. Never once. Why? Because he has full faith that I'm going to provide for him, that I care about him enough to provide for him, and that I will provide for him. And he doesn't have to tell me that. He can just show me with his actions, right? And imagine even if my dog could talk, that would be super cool. I think we could find out a whole lot of awesome stuff about the world because he must have such a creative mind. But let's imagine he could talk, right? And so what if he came to me and he was like, hey, I imagine if Samson could talk, he would talk super fast. But if he was like, hey, I believe that you can provide for me, and also that you have a heart to provide for me. So not only that you can, but you want to. Your heart desires to. But then I went to the bowls, and he was hungry, but he wasn't eating it all. He was hoarding it. Like, I would know by his actions that what he was saying wasn't true. Does that make sense? So, like, we all understand that our actions speak a lot louder than our words, that talk is cheap. And real belief is revealed through action. So through answering the two questions I gave you above, I'm going to try to combat these two ideas. Okay, so the first idea we'll combat tonight, the second idea probably next week. This is the first one. That knowing or proclaiming certain facts constitutes genuine faith. I'm going to be combating this idea, coming against this idea. That knowing or proclaiming certain facts constitutes genuine faith, and that faith can be genuine apart from works. And second, next week I'm going to combat the idea that I can believe and be saved and then continue to live however I want to live. I was hanging out with a guy a week or two ago, and we were talking about faith. We were talking about Jesus, and he was really just telling me a lot about his life. Really enjoyed the conversation, looking forward to having more like it with this guy. And he told me, he's like, hey, I believe in Jesus, but... You ever had a conversation with someone who says, I believe in Jesus, but? I feel like we're in a culture who says that it's okay to believe in Jesus, but fill in the blank. And so it's kind of this idea of, okay, what's my life going to look like if I really believe? Genuine belief will lead to genuine action. And there's a lot of people who say things like this: I believe in God or Jesus, but I don't know about loving God with all of my heart, my mind, my soul, my strength, and loving my neighbor as myself. Like, I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about forgiving those who have wronged me. I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about him being the only way to God. Well, you don't believe Jesus then and what he said. You guys following me? So people would say things like, I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about giving my finances to see his kingdom expand. I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about taking care of the poor and the oppressed. I don't know about this well thing, but I do believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about him being God. Well, he kind of claimed to be a whole lot of times. And so to believe him is to believe what he taught. I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about being part of the body of Christ. I'm just not sure about that church thing. I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about casting my cares on him. I believe in Jesus, but I don't know about taking up my cross, denying myself, and following him. I believe in Jesus, but I kind of have my own way to follow him. You ever heard someone say something like this? You ever looked at them and say, friend, I'm not exactly sure if you believe in Jesus? I believe in Jesus, but I don't know if everything he said was true. And dramatically, and whatever you want to call it, it's really this idea that I can take it to the furthest that it can go, that there are people out there like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but I murdered a guy last week and I'm not remorseful about it at all. You guys ever been to like a funeral of someone that you just honestly knew didn't live their life for Jesus? And then stands before this congregation of people who have gathered because they love this person, proclaim them right into heaven. Talk about them like they'd followed Jesus every day of their life. It's just not true. You can't follow Jesus and then just continue on in your own ways. It's a misunderstanding of the word belief itself, and hopefully tonight we can get to what genuine belief produces. So we're going to go to James 2:14 through 26 to kind of discuss this further scripturally. James 2:14 through 26. You guys still with me? Tonight's going to be a little bit longer, but I promise it'll be worth it. So hang with me, dig in. We're going to really look into this passage and in depth and what it's saying. James 2:14 through 26. We're going to kind of take it in chunks, but I'm going to read it all the way through first. I'll actually read it with you guys here. Kyle, if you can throw that up for me. I'm just going to read it straight through, and then we'll break it down. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or a sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it doesn't have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one? You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham, our father, justified by works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. This is the passage we were talking about a couple weeks back. And he was called a friend of God. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. And in the same way, was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. So when you go through it section by section, we're going to see what God would speak to us about this idea of faith without works is dead. So starting back at 14 through 17, this is what it says. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says, this is a key word here in this passage, says, that we're going to be talking about tonight. So he's proclaiming that he has faith vocally, verbally, out of his mouth. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? So what it's saying is a faith that's only proclaimed and not also attached to works, is it genuine faith? Is it a faith that can lead to salvation? And so in this section that we're talking about, really what the writer is saying is, can faith simply be proclaimed? Like, can you just say, I'm a Christian, and be a Christian? Can you just proclaim faith out of your mouth but not live it with your life and be saved? So can that faith save him? It doesn't say, can faith save him? Faith absolutely is what saves us. But it's saying, can that type of faith save them? The type that is proclaimed but not lived. If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So we see in this first passage here, I would define it as declared faith. It's not a genuine faith. It's actually a dead faith. So you can call it dead faith or declared faith, but it's this idea that a proclamation can be made that I believe, but that isn't enough to save you. Saying you're a Christian, repeating a prayer, something coming out of your mouth, but not something actually changing in your heart. This is what I'm talking about. So just because you say it doesn't make it true. That's what James is saying here. It's a dead faith. It's simply a declared faith, but it is not a genuine faith. This is the question that comes along with this section. Can a faith that's only proclaimed save me? Can a faith that's only proclaimed save me? There's an illustration in this first section that's often used and taught when this is talked about. And it says this, go in peace. If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, I jumped ahead, go in peace, be warmed and filled without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? I believe that if you read this and you're not actually finding out what he's actually trying to say, you're going to take away from this. If someone is poor and they need food or they need clothes, you should take care of that need. That is absolutely true, but that is not what James is saying here. Not at all. What James is actually saying here is your proclamation of faith, not attached to action, is just about as useless as me going up to someone who's hungry and who doesn't have proper clothing and saying, yo, bro, get some clothes. Here, get some clothes. Hope you feel warm. This is nice. God's blessings be on you. And then I continue on without feeding them or clothing them. It's like the proclamation that peace be with them, that they be fed, and that they be clothed does nothing. So he's actually not teaching us here to take care of the poor and the oppressed. He's actually saying that the declaration of your mouth to that person is worth nothing. Just like your declaration before men or before God that you have faith is worth nothing. It's no good. It is of no value. It accomplishes nothing. It's actually dead. Proclamation without living a life, an action, a life of works is dead. It's worth nothing. It is not a saving faith. In the same way, faith that is only proclaimed and not accompanied by works is dead. It accomplishes nothing. And Jesus says it like this in Matthew 7:21 through 23. We usually focus on the back half of these verses, but the front half is what's so interesting in context to what we're talking about tonight. It says this, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of the Father who is in heaven." I want to also point this out to you guys. I was saying it earlier. I wasn't planning on it, but I was talking about the funeral, right? And being there. And, everyone's not going to heaven. This isn't just a thing, or not going to have eternal relationship with God, however you want to look at that, right? And so this isn't just a thing I'm saying. This is a thing that Jesus says right here. Not everyone will enter the kingdom of heaven. He actually says, not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven. So it's like there will be those who think they have relationship with me that will not have relationship with me. And that's specifically what we're talking about here, but I want to also get you guys to this general idea that everyone in the world will not be saved. Everyone in the world will not have eternity with God. It is a hard truth, yet it's still the truth. It breaks my heart. I want to do something about it. It compels me to go and proclaim the gospel here, there, and everywhere. The reality that there are people that are separated from God now and will be separated from God for eternity. What it's saying here is not everyone who says, so not by their proclamation alone. They called him Lord. They said to him, "Lord, Lord." He's like, not even the ones who say to me that I'm Lord, some of them won't even get to enter. Because they only proclaim it with their mouths, with the second half of the verse. The one who will make it, the one who will receive or enter the kingdom of heaven, is the one who does the will of the Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? And then will I declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" That's what we can see through these two passages, that by proclamation alone, you are no more saved than the poor man is clothed and fed by simply hearing, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled." By proclamation alone, you are no more saved than the poor man is clothed and fed by simply hearing, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled." Just because your Instagram bio says you're a Christian, John 3:16, doesn't mean you're in right standing before God. Just because I stand up here before you guys and I teach and I say, "Hey, I follow Jesus," it doesn't mean that I have right standing before God. Verse 18. But someone will say, this is the theme of the passage, it's about proclamation. But someone will say, "You have faith and I have works." Laura Lee, show me your faith apart from works, and I will show you my faith by my works. What it's saying is this: I have faith. I'm saying I have faith. Laura Lee's saying that she has faith. Show me your faith. Prove it. No, not for real, but she's like, "For real?" But how could you? What could you say that would let me know you had had genuine faith? You know what I'm saying? If your life doesn't reveal it, if it's not put into action in some way, how could I know that you have faith? I can't just see it. I can't just look at Duncan and be like, "Man, that guy has really good faith." He's like, "Show me your faith without works. I'm going to show you my faith by my works." So that the works, that the doing, that the serving, that the being more like Jesus actually reveals that something is happening in my heart that's genuine, a genuine faith. Get illustrated in this way. It's like, just because Nathan Willis says he's a pirate doesn't mean he's a pirate. This man's been trying to convince everyone for years that he's a pirate. Just by proclamation alone. But we can look at you, bro. We can see that you're not really a pirate. This is all a joke. I made it up that he's a pirate. Could you say something for me into the microphone? Can you just say, I am Coca-Cola?
I am Coca-Cola?
You are not a Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how many times Ashley Rice sits here and is like, I am a Coca-Cola, I am a Coca-Cola, she will never become a Coca-Cola, not even once. We can look at Ashley and be like, you're not a Coca-Cola. But how do we know that? She doesn't look like a Coca-Cola. She doesn't act like a Coca-Cola. She doesn't taste like a Coca-Cola. Because she's a human being. How could she ever be a Coca-Cola? You know what I'm saying? But just by proclamation alone doesn't make it true. I got a coffee earlier. On the top, it said, caution, it's hot. I took a drink of it. It was cold. Lies. Like, just because it says that it is something doesn't mean that it actually is that thing. I could say anything. I could stand up here and say, hello, I'm an NBA player. I'm the greatest to ever do it. That doesn't make it true. Not even remotely close. You guys understand what I'm saying? What if I was like, I am Peter Pan? You guys would be like, that guy's not Peter Pan. He's Tyler. He could never be Peter Pan. Like, all these things are ridiculous. All these things are ridiculous. Because we can look at them and tell that they're not that thing. We can look at Nathan and tell he's not really a pirate, even though I'm going to call him that forever. We can look at Ashley, we can tell that she's not really a Coca-Cola, because that makes absolutely no sense. We can also look at your life, and we can tell whether or not your faith is genuine or not. So you are no more a Christian just because you say it than Ashley is a Coca-Cola. This is dead faith. 1 John 2:4 says it this way: whoever says, I know him, but does not keep his commandments is a liar. And the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps his word, in him truly the love of God is perfected. By this we may know that we are in him. Whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way Jesus walked. It says he walked, but I wanted you to understand who the he was. John 15:8 says it this way. These are Jesus' words. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit and prove to be my disciples. How can we prove that we are his disciples? We can bear much fruit by abiding in him. Matthew 7, Jesus says it this way: watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Not by their words, not by what they say, by what they say what they believe, or by what they say about themselves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes? Or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Because faith without works is dead. A faith that is proclaimed but not lived is not genuine faith. It is not saving faith. Genuine faith is revealed not by our words, but by fruit coming from our lives. So that's dead faith or declared faith. Verse 19, I'll continue on. It says this, it's going to get good. It says, you believe that God is one, you do well. He doesn't really mean that. He's being sarcastic. This is how I know. It says this, even the demons believe and shudder. You believe God is one. You have this intellectual understanding or knowledge or belief that God is one. It's intellect only. I'm going to show that to you guys. Even the demons believe and they shudder. I call this demonic faith. It's proper intellect alone. It's right knowledge on its own. Knowing isn't believing. This is the second part of the passage tonight. The first was about declaration without action. This is about proper knowledge without action. Demonic faith. See, in Mark 1, 34 through 35, we can see this. I'm going to show you for instances with demons. It says this in 34 through 35. And he healed, he being Jesus, many who were sick with various diseases, and he cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. They knew Jesus. Luke 4, 33 through 34. It says this, and in the synagogue there was a man who had the spirit of an unclean demon. And he cried out with a voice, "Ha! What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth?" They knew him and they knew where he was from. "Have you come to destroy us?" They also know his authority and that anytime he wants, he can destroy them. "I know who you are, the Holy One of God." They even understood Jesus' holiness, his righteousness, his ultimate perfection. Okay, these are demons. They have a knowledge of Jesus. They have a knowledge of God. Luke 4, 41, it says this, and demons also came out of many, and as they came out, they were crying, "You are the Son of God." But he rebuked them and would not allow them to speak because they knew that he was the Christ, another word for Messiah, the one that came to save the world. In Matthew 8, 28 through 29, he interacts with two more demoniacs. When he came to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes, two demoniacs coming out of the tombs met him. They were so fierce that no one could pass that way. And suddenly they shouted, "What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" See, even the demons knew that there would come a time that they would meet their ultimate destruction. They're like, "Are you here? You seem a little bit early. I thought this torment, this punishment was coming later." So we can see from these passages that they knew him. They knew he was Jesus of Nazareth. They knew he was the Son of God. They knew about his holiness. They knew that he was the Messiah who came to save the world of their sins. They know his ultimate authority. And even in the passage, the last one in Matthew, if you look at the parallel story told in Mark, they come and bow down before him. They know of their eventual destruction. They believed intellectually, they had knowledge about God. This is what James is saying here. So according to Ephesians 2, 8 and 9, for by grace you have been saved through faith or through belief. And it's not of your own doing. It's a gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. According to this passage, they believe, right? So are the demons saved? Absolutely not. It's talking about an intellectual assent or a knowledge or a knowing that isn't accompanied with right fruit, with right works, with right living, so that we can know that it's not a genuine faith. It is an intellectual faith. I would call it a demonic faith, but it's not genuine saving faith. We can't proclaim it without action and it be true. We can't know it without action and it be true. Genuine faith is accompanied by works. So proper intellect or ascribing to a set of facts isn't indicative of genuine faith. Knowing all the right facts, and to dumb it all the way down, won't save you. You grow up, you're able to quote John 3:16 and Romans 3:23 and Romans 6:23, and you're able to say all the books of the Old Testament and all the books of the New Testament, and you can recite all the scriptures that you learned at home, and you can recite all the scriptures that you learned in church, and you can know all there is to know about God. You can know that God sent his Son to die a sinner's death for you, that he lived a perfect life, that he died on a cross, taking your sins and the wrath of God upon himself. You can know that he rose from the grave 3 days later and that he's going to return for his church, but it absolutely does not mean you're a part of it. You can know all the right stuff and not have right standing before God. It is not an intellectual pursuit. You can't know enough to save yourself. And man, that's good news. Genuine belief isn't revealed in saying the right things or in knowing the right things, but rather through doing the right things. I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that genuine belief is gained this way. I'm saying that it is revealed this way. We're answering the question of how do I know that my faith is genuine? It isn't revealed in saying the right things, because I can say I'm a Coca-Cola and not be a Coca-Cola. It's not revealed in knowing the right things, because even the demons believe. Even the demons know who Jesus is and shudder, but they're not saved. But instead, it's in doing the right things. Verse 20, we continue on to the third section. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? I love James so much. He's just to the point. He's like, I'm going to give you some illustrations here about how these people were justified by faith accompanied by works. Genuine faith. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. This is what we were talking about a couple weeks back, the life of Abraham and justification by faith. And he was called a friend of God. I'm going to focus in on 22. You see that faith was active along with his works. Genuine faith is active along with works. And faith was actually brought to completion by his works. How do we know it's for real? How do we know that faith is for real and therefore can justify, therefore can make us right before God? It's that it is accompanied with genuine works. So what does it look like to live a life where your faith and works are acting together? I'm really excited about this part. I hope you guys get a lot out of it. What does it look like to live a life where your faith and works are acting together? There's a really cool place in the book in the Bible in Hebrews that we can go to. You can turn there with me in 11. I'm going to show you what it looks like to have your actions working in conjunction with your faith. That genuine faith is always played out in genuine action every single time. That you can know that your faith is real by the life that you live, by the fruit of your life. We can see it all throughout Scripture. It's going to start at the beginning. It's really cool. Hebrews 11:1, we're going to read through 12:2. Watch closely at all of the verbs that follow faith, all of the action that follows faith in these people's lives. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. For by it the people of old received their commendation. By faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, that he just spoke it into existence, so that what is seen was not made out of things that are visible. So everything came from things that were not yet created. Verse 4. By faith, Abel, what? Offered, a verb. By faith, Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain, through which he was commended as righteous, God commending him by accepting his gifts. And through his faith, though he died, he still speaks. By faith, Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death, and he was not found because God had taken him. Now before he was taken, he was commended as having pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please him. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. By faith, Noah being warned by God concerning events yet unseen in reverent fear. Well done, Dawson. Constructed. Faith led to construction. Constructed an ark for the saving of his household. By this he commended the world and became an heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance, and he went out, not knowing where he was going. By faith he went to live in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in the tents with Isaac and Jacob, heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. I can't wait to be in that city. By faith, Sarah herself received power to conceive, even when she was past the age, since she considered him faithful who had promised. Therefore, from one man, and him as good as dead, were born descendants as many as the stars of heaven, and as many as the innumerable grains of sand by the seashore. These all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on earth. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of that land from which they had gone, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. He has prepared for them a city. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises was in the act of offering up his only son, of whom it was said, "Through Isaac shall your offspring be named." He considered that God was able even to raise him from the dead, from which, figuratively speaking, he did receive him back. By faith, Isaac invoked future blessings on Jacob and Esau. By faith, Jacob, when dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph, bowing in worship over the head of his staff. By faith, Joseph, at the end of his life, made mention of the exodus of the Israelites and gave directions concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden. So it's really by his parents' faith, his mother's faith. Was hidden for 3 months by his parents, because they saw that the child was beautiful, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. So by faith, they were not afraid. By faith, Moses, when he was grown up, refused to be called a son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God. Isn't that cool? Than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. By faith he left Egypt, not being afraid of the anger of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and sprinkled the blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn might not touch them. By faith the people crossed the Red Sea as on dry land, but the Egyptians, when they attempted to do the same, were drowned. By faith the walls of Jericho fell down after they had encircled it for 7 days. By faith, Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. And what more shall I say? It gets even better. For time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, of David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, enforced justice, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, were made strong out of weakness, became mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection. Some were tortured, refusing to accept release, so that they may rise again to a better life. Others suffered mocking and flogging and even chains of imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sawn in two. They were killed with the sword. They went about in skins of sheep and goats, destitute, afflicted, mistreated, of whom the world was not worthy, wandering about in deserts and mountains and in dens and caves of the earth. And all these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised, since God had provided something better for us, that apart from us they should not be made perfect. 12:1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, therefore, as a result of all of this, look at their faith and how it leads to action in their lives. It isn't just proclaimed. It isn't just intellect. It moves forward to action. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud, by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, because he is the founder and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Just like with these legends, we can know that our faith is genuine when it is active alongside our works. Genuine faith produces action. Faith is real when accompanied with verbs. I want that to sink in. It's kind of a weird sentence, but I didn't want to take it out. Genuine faith is always accompanied with verbs. If you see a faith with no verbs, it's dead. And I ask you this question: does faith produce action in your life? How does faith produce action in your life? Thirdly, what do I say about God or know about God that I don't put into action in my life? The passage continues on in 24. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. I'll bring it to close quickly. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. There's a seeming conflict here that Paul is saying justification is by faith alone, through grace alone, by faith alone. And then we have James over here who's saying that justification isn't just by faith, but actually he's saying that you're justified by your works and not by faith alone. There's this seeming conflict with Ephesians 2:8 and 9 in the passage we're reading here in James. But there's no conflict between James and Paul. James is not saying that we can be saved by works. He is simply communicating that when genuine, saving faith is present, that works will always be present as well. There is no saving faith without works. He is not saying that works save you. He is saying that genuine faith is always accompanied by works. It's the genuine faith that saved you. It's the works that lets us know that it's for real. The obedience proclaims the genuineness of faith. Works do not accomplish right standing, they reveal right standing. It's like an apple tree. The apples on an apple tree don't make the tree an apple tree. It was an apple tree long before it produced apples. The apples simply reveal that it is an apple tree. Fruit or works prove that the grace of God was extended to you and received by you. Abraham was justified by faith. His obedience was a validation of his faith. And you are justified by faith if it is genuine, and your obedience will be a validation of yours. 25 to the end. And in the same way was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? It's just another illustration, just like we just had. For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. We like to read Ephesians 2, 8 through 9, but a lot of times we leave off verse 10. I want to show you guys the significance of that tonight. It says this, "For by grace you have been saved through faith." Good news. And this is not of your own doing, it's the gift of God. It's not a result of works. This salvation, this right standing before God, this grace that saves us through faith, it's not a result of works. So that no one can boast. So that no one can say, look at what I did. Look at what I've accomplished. But it's accompanied by 10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. See, a response to grace that comes free is living a life for Jesus. It's giving up ourselves for him. And the works reveal the genuineness of that belief. Hey, will you help me? Can you come stand right here? And Braxton, will you kind of stand there? This is Nathan and Braxton. You can just kind of stand there on the ground. You can stand like here, potentially in this position, with your back. And then you're just kind of back there. You're going to just prepare yourself to catch him.
Oh, okay.
But just be further back, though.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of like somewhere in there.
No. He's pretty short cut.
So to illustrate the whole night, I'm just kind of illustrated in this way. I had some thoughts about having someone stand on that and just fall off and like a group of us catch them. I decided against it. But this can kind of define the whole night. Nathan can say that he trusts Braxton. And also Nathan can know that Braxton is trustworthy. So he can say it and he can have like an intellectual, like I can intellectually understand that Braxton's strong enough to catch me. Right? But his faith isn't for real until he falls. Does that make sense? And so, I mean, he caught him. You guys can give it up. It wasn't that intense. So imagine with me the illustration from up there, because I think it would be a lot more intense and then it would get your attention better. So just imagine Ronnie Rayner up there on the edge. And he falls for me to catch him. It's a very simple illustration just to say this. It's like his proclamation doesn't reveal genuine faith. And his intellect doesn't reveal genuine faith. He can know how much Braxton bench presses. He can know how many push-ups Braxton can do in 28 minutes. You know, he can know that Braxton is how much ever he weighs and he's how much ever he weighs, and he can do all the math and be like, there's a 3.89% chance that he'll drop me. He can figure all the intellectual stuff out, but his faith isn't genuine until he actually falls. And so I kind of want to conclude in this way tonight is just to ask, is your faith for real? Is it just something that you say, like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but ... Is it just a cross you wear? Is it just a sticker on your car? Is it just a group you show up to every week? Is it just something you say? You know, is it just something that you know is like, there's just like a, hey, intellectually I've figured it out, and Christianity seems like the best option of all the options. That faith isn't genuine. It can't just be something that you know. Genuine faith is always revealed by works and is always accompanied by works. So that you can look at the fruit of my life and you can say, man, that's a Christian tree. Does this mean perfection? Absolutely not. Am I saying that like you chose to follow Jesus and so you're only going to do everything right from this point forward? Come back next week. We're going to talk about sanctification and the process of it. Maturing in faith, kind of like a baby, going from a baby to a handsome young man like me. It's just a joke. I'm just making jokes. But it's like that. It's like there's this maturity process, right? And along the way, babies fall down. They have to learn how to walk. They have to learn how to use the toilet, etc., etc. And that's going to be your life of faith. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. You have to get everything right for it to reveal that you're a Christian. That wouldn't line up biblically either. We're in one passage tonight. We have to go to broader passages to be able to answer that question, which hopefully we will, or we plan to. But as for tonight goes, it's just asking this question, is your faith for real? Or are you just standing on the ledge, saying the right things and thinking the right things, but your faith isn't leading you to actually fall off and trust God to catch you, and trust God with your life, and trust God with your decisions, and trust God with your money, and trust God that what he says is better for you than what you think, and than your plans, than your ways. Bless you.